This is Mark Langley's Horsemanship Podcast, a podcast helping people to understand their horses better to provide solutions in a calm, connected way. I'm Jenny Langley, and with me is Mark Langley. This week we're talking about loading horses and helping horses to not only be less anxious but have a lot more confidence at the same time. Mark, I've got a couple of questions that have come through from a couple of our members, Kathy and Leisha. So that Kathy is over in America, Leisha's here in Australia. They have very similar problems with getting their horses to stay still in the float. So I just wondered if you might be able to give them some tips. Kathy's situation is that her gelding will load nicely and will even softly step forward if he starts to back out. But she's finding that once she goes to close that gate at the back, he's wanting to get out with her. She has also commented that if she ties him up, he can pull back or set back if that means more to you. She has been using a tie blocker ring, but he has pulled through it. And she's noticed that when he gets somewhere, if she takes him somewhere, he's very difficult to load to return home. Leisha's having a really similar problem. She's got a horse that's soft and leading, but she's finding she has to continually ask to get his focus back on task. And she's finding that when she goes to do the breeching gate up, he wants to come out with her. So he's obviously aware that she's leaving and he wants to be with her. She'd like to know, how can she make her horse more confident? But there's a bit more going on here, isn't there? What tips have they got? What's happening? What's going wrong? Why is the horse going in but wanting to get out and then not loading when they have got somewhere?
Well, with the first one, though, you know, the setback or the pullback, you know, if they pull through a tie blocker, then they can lean on pressure and means that they can pull backwards whenever they like. So the halter going in is only half luring them in. If they decide not to go in, you can't just say step in. They'll pull back. So that's the first thing I would go and work on, especially because every single horse that's got some form of pullback in them, they will get to a point they don't load, or they'll back out, or they'll, you know, it's just, you know, as I say, we're just sort of getting them in, but when they're stressed, they're not going to go in, and when they're stressed, they're going to pull back. So you've got to work on the pullback and go, you know, like just at the last clinic run I've done, there was one particular horse. I did 2 days of working on the gaze, and then on the third lesson of the second day, I went, let's work on this head brace, because the halter feels like, you know, it feels like, as I say, the horse thinks it's got a brown snake on its head, and this is causing a few other links or behaviours in the horse that I believe the halter was causing it to creep up to us. I said that I think it's having the halter on is causing the horse to creep and have gazy thoughts, but we know it's got a bit of a pullback in there. So I did a really kind of quite an intense lesson on pulling back, but then the next day we didn't have to manage anything else. The horse didn't gaze, it didn't do this, it didn't do that. It just said, thanks for fixing that, because I was really troubled having that halter on. So
wow. So
basically, you know, and the horse needed to know that it was safe in that halter to feel really good in a lot of areas, and its body changed, everything changed. You know, so you work on the pullback until you can lead the horse down, lead it up, down till its head's nearly on the ground. You can back it up with its head nearly on the ground, lead it forward. You can even do hindquarter yields with its head on the ground just by twisting the rope, and all 4 feet are loose. You can jog it up in your hand, back it up. You can stress it, like give it a bit of a bump on the head, and the horse goes, oh, no, I'll just soften and go forward. I'm not going to pull back. You know, you have to, the horses that have been in a pullback before, I was explaining this to someone yesterday because they were a little bit concerned, because I said, I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on your horse's head. And they said, am I going to be ready for this? I said, well, I think your horse needs it, whether you're ready for it or not, but I'm going to show you this. And she says, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I said, well, sometimes it can be, but think of it like this. That horse has had quite a lot of pullbacks, and it's pulled against itself at some point worse than this. I'm just doing it in a way that it finds the answer, but I have to take it back to the pullback until it finds its way out of it. instead of avoid it, because sometimes they'll get in the pull back in the float and they'll still go back to the memory of pulling back because it's never been solved. So you have to go a little bit and go, hey, I need a response, and they'll worry about that. But then you just go with them until they step forward, and just work until you, as I say, you can wave a flag in front of them. They'll push back in the holder, then they'll step forward, and there's no such thing as a pullback anymore. And then go back to the float, and then you'll find the loading process will be so much softer and smoother, and the horse will have a less of a desire backing it out, even though you think it's got something to do with the breaching gait and stuff. But once you've solved the pullback, then you teach your horse to go in the float. And for Leisha's question too, this will be sort of part of the key for both of these horses. The next thing you do is you work on, once the horse is in there, you get in front of him and you just bother him a little bit, and you give them the rope and you say, you're pretending they're at liberty to do what they want. And they'll go, well, of course I'm going to back out. I said, well, you can do that. I'm not going to stop you. Oh, I just backed out myself. And then you load them up again and you say, oh, I'm just going to put something in front of you and your eyes and push you back a bit, take your hat off, wave the flag a bit. And they're going, oh, I'm a bit bothered. I'm going to back away from the flag or the hat. After about so many goes of backing out, they'll be backing away from the bother, not the float. And then they'll go, I'm just walking backwards in a float, backing off what I can see in my face, which is bothering me a little bit. You're not scaring the life out of them. It's just, there's something in front of me. And what that does, and why I do that more now than I probably ever used to, is because I notice all these horses that have learnt to shoot out of the float, some of them scramble and some of them panic in the float and they don't travel well. And both these horses, especially with Lisa's question is, they worry in the float. Well, some horses worry because they think they're not allowed to move because they get locked up in there and they get claustrophobic and tight, and they still may lead with your leading backwards and forwards because you've asked them to, but when there's nothing to ask them to back up or go forward on the lead rope, they go, well, I might just not do anything and be a bit frozen. So by giving them a little bit of a bother in there, they go, oh, I have to do something about that. I need to do something. And then they do something about it, means they start to learn to move in the float. And what I've found is after maybe letting them back out 30 times, by about the 20th time, they're just backing out real quietly and slowly. And actually, they're not really bothered about backing out. And if you stop the bother, they'll just stop wherever you stop the bother. And then they stop. And what happens, they stop thinking about backing out the float. And they were just thinking about backing away from that thing that was kind of slightly bothering them. But what it does, it gets them to move softly inside the horse float, and then they're backing up softly. So once you've done that with both those horses, they're like, oh, I just back out, I don't run out. And that's the difference. Some horses just shoot out with their thoughts forward, going, oh, I'm scared of the float. But then when they learn to move in the float softly, then when they're a little bit bothered, when they're travelling, they'll be a bit looser. And once you've done that, then you go back to, you obviously fix the leading, make sure there's no brace, no pullback, get rid of the pullback. And also I bang the float a little bit. For any of the horses that have had pullback in them and near the float, I'll most definitely get my flag and I'll bang the float, I'll shake the float, I'll make the float look undesirable. And if your horse sits back on that rope because you've shaken and, shook your flag and banged the float and made some noises around the float, well, you know that there's still a pullback in there, and everything happens. If anything happens halfway in that float, they're going to pull back. So you test the pullback by, wriggling the float, making it undesirable. And if they just step forward when that float's quite undesirable and they don't lean on your hand, you've done more of your job, and the horse is a lot more confident at making a decision. Then you go to self-loading. So you just stand at the ramp and you just teach your horse to go all the way in with you at the ramp and all the way out until it's just stops wherever you ask it to stop. Sometimes you might go halfway in and let the horse go to the chest bar in front of you and just keep working your way back to the ramp until it goes all the way to the chest bar. And then also put a breaching rope on them. And once they've led in, remember, breaching ropes, in my opinion, are very good for horses to learn to work in the space of a float, but they're not there because the horse has a pullback and you're worried that it's going to pull back. You've worked on the pullback, you fixed the leading. The breaching rope's there just to sort of say, hey, I've got a breaching rope on. I can feel that breaching pressure and move forward softly to it, so I'm okay when I'm in that tight space. And that last little bit, you might stand there at the tailgate You might just have the breeching rope on, and that last little bit, you step them up to the chest bar, and then you might have your rope and you back them back into the breeching rope and you step them up until they're working between the breeching rope, which some people call it a butt rope, and they're working in that space. Pull them forward to the chest bar, and once you've done a bit of backwards and forwards between the lead rein and the breeching rope, then breeching rope back up to the chest bar, close the breeching gate. And that just helps them really understand that pressure behind them is another soft leading pressure, not a trap.
You mentioned trap in that, and I've got a question that's come through from Michelle, who's also having problems with a horse in the trailer, but also outside of the trailer. It's sort of any small space or a stable or a small area. She's noticed that the anxiety in her horse skyrockets. So it's almost as if she thinks her horse feels trapped. And so that can happen in the float. She also feels that this happens when they're tied up as well. So she would like to know, how can she help her horse not feel trapped in all these different situations?
Well, just like the start of the answer about the pullback and the horse that still had pullback at the float, that halter, you probably find if you really stressed your horse a little in the halter, it's probably still got a pullback and a lack of understanding. If you look at a lot of ways horses have been trained, I'm not saying your horse has been trained like this, but it's very common, is we send them off with pressure and we say, don't go away with the rope. We send them off with pressure and then we say, don't go away with the rope. So you can see why a lot of horses don't feel empowered in a lead rope and they feel a little trapped, is because we pushed them away with a bit of a pressure that worried them, and then we said, don't leave in the rope. The only thing that stopped the horse from running off when we're not in a small yard is that rope. And you watch a lot of people work their horses and they're pushing their horse out and catching them with the rope, bringing them back, pushing them out, catching them with the rope, bringing them back. Hence why horses have a one-way conversation with the rope. You're the one that makes me not leave, so I'm not going to go with you into a tight space because I don't want to have something that can trap me in a cave where there might be monsters. I want to know I can, I don't feel like that. So the tool that leads the horse into the tight space has to be a tool that the horse trusts and can follow comfortably. So that's why I send everyone back to the drawing board with the leading and the softening and the trust of that lead. Get your horse to think out with a rope, get it to think back, get it to think out and go out with a rope and come back. So you're not having a one-way conversation. And that's the balance of good quality leading and horsemanship, is you can get your horse to think out and think back. And having the rope, the horse empowered in the lead rope and soft, then they have a less anxiety when they go into those places. Now, I would say if your horse was truly trusting of your pressure, your energy, you can run up to it. It's not frightened of people running at it with their hands up because it's been driven or whatever's happened in the past. It truly trusts that rein. It's only got to worry about the tight space. 90% of the time when I fix those other things, the claustrophobia always gets better.
Really?
And then when you take the horse to that tight space, I'm not saying it's going to go away, but it will get better because, remember, I have something on my head that I feel a little worried about. I've got a person with me who people in the past have provided undesirable pressure and I feel a bit unsafe with them. I'm not going to go into a house, with some sort of schizophrenic person with a gun. So I'm going to stay outside. I'm going to leave the door open if I did have to go into the house.
Yeah.
So
escape route.
Yeah, escape route. So basically, but I'll go into the haunted house with my best friend who's in the SAS, who I really, really like, because that's going to help me be a bit braver. Yeah. So you got to see it like that. So then once you've worked on those other things, the only thing you can do is graded exposure. Like imagine like a kid going into a haunted house. The door's open. They go in a little bit. They look around and go, oh, it looks all right. I just might go back outside, just sort of have a bit of a breath. I'll go back in. Oh, it's not too bad here. I'll go a bit further. Oh, it was a bit scary. I might go back out again. And then eventually they go in so far that they're almost in the middle of the haunted house. And when they back out, they only back halfway out because they're like, oh, well, I know the door's just there, but I actually feel safe in this space here because they've actually done that so many times they feel okay. So that's what you sort of do. You do the graded exposure, and also you teach the horse it can go in and out of the door into those spaces every direction. And so you have to say, I'm going to take you in and back you out. I'm going to take you in, back you out, and then I might turn around and I might back you in a little bit. So you're using your rear view mirrors to go in there, and then you're going to come out forwards. And then once you get the whole body in, you move the horse around in that space, take it back out. So the horse knows if it goes into the tight space, it can always come out. And once the horse knows that outside's available, it'll start to go in there thinking, oh, well, it's not so bad in here. And, it might take time with a very claustrophobic horse, but you've got to take away all the elements that you can control that worry the horse. And that's like riding a horse out. Like, a question in another podcast, and a very common question is, my horse doesn't want to go out on its own, but doesn't steer, or it doesn't move off the legs nicely. So you've got to think, okay, well, do I really want to ride it out on its own? It all links to the same thing.
Back to that education. Education that helps a horse feel good. That is what you're essentially all about. So yeah, makes sense completely. Thank you very much, Mark. I hope that makes sense to everyone listening. And thank you for the questions that have come through. Thank you to all of our online members for your continued support. We wouldn't be able to provide all of this free, valuable information without you. So thank you so much. That's it for us for this week. We'll be back next week answering more questions. See you then.
Thank you, Jenny. Thanks, everybody.
The accurate insights and solutions that Mark Langley gives are at the forefront of emotive horsemanship globally. You can learn them for yourself through his supportive online membership. Check it out with a 7-day free trial. marklangley.com.au